Hello, my name is Debra DeWolff, and today I'm at Cool Tools, and what we're going to be doing next is a flower petal cane that we will be using to make a flower cane. Another thing you can do with your Skinner blend, which is really cool, is instead of making a jelly roll, which you can do either with or without another sheet of clay, you can just use the Skinner blend the way it is and roll it up like a jelly roll without another color. But what we're going to do now is make a plug that's this color on one end and the dark color on the other end. This was run through on the thickest setting of the pasta machine, and now I'm stepping down 2 widths, and I'm going to keep my finger next to it again so that it doesn't change in width this way. And I'm going to run it through again, and it's going to lengthen some more. Made it a little longer. And now I'm going to go down 2 more widths again and send it through. And this can get a little tricky because it's long and it's sticky. It wants to stick to itself. And you have to be gentle with it and coax it apart if it's sticking to itself. But now we have a really long sheet. And I could go down even further than this if I wanted to, but I think I'm going to stop here because I don't want to tempt fate and have a mess that I can't work with. I'm going to cut off the end straight, and then I'm going to fold it back on itself about 1.5 inches. And make a nice crease there and get out all the air. And this is going to be an accordion fold. I'm going to go back the other way and fold it back on itself and get out all the air. And I'm just going to keep doing this over and over until I run out of the strip of clay. Okay, I have come to the end of the strip of clay now, and I've got a little extra here. What I'm going to do is turn it over and just cut that off straight. Now you can see the layers. And we're going to reduce it just like this, just a little bit, to make sure we have all of the air out. We will be turning this into a round cane, though, eventually. So you don't have to be really concerned about the shape it's in right now. And I'm rolling it lengthwise. I could be rolling it across too if I wanted to widen it. Okay. To turn this into a round cane, what we do is put our fingers at the corners and pinch. At this point, I don't want to make it much longer than it is right now, so if it's starting to lengthen, I'm just going to push my fingers back in. Okay. There you go. And now I want to put some veins in my petals. And what I chose was one of my Skinner blends that went from blue to yellow. I'm going to use this for the veining in my petal. And I made this the same way we made one of our other Skinner blends, by rolling it up and compressing it into a plug and flattening it out and running it through the pasta machine until it was very, very thin. You can see how thin this is. It's probably at like the 5th setting on my pasta machine. It might be different on yours. All pasta machines are just a little bit different, but I think you can see the thickness of this. And I'm going to be slicing into my petal cane and inserting these into the slices I make. So I have to decide, do I want the yellow on the bottom or on the top when you're looking at the side of my cane? And I think what I'm going to do is keep the blue side of this ribbon down at the bottom and the yellow up at the top. This would also be easier to do, what I'm going to do next, if you could let your cane rest overnight. So keep that in mind if you're doing this. But what I'm going to do is make cuts in my cane starting at the base of what I'm assuming is my petal. I'm assuming that this is the outside of my petal and this is the base or the center of the flower, the base of the petal. And I'm going to make a cut that doesn't go all the way through. It's going to be a cut that's about as deep as this is wide. Okay? So very carefully, I'm going to cut into my petal. And kind of spread it apart with my fingers because I'm going to want to insert a piece of this into this cut. Remember, I wanted the yellow at the top of the petal, so that's how I'm going to put it in. And close it up. I don't know if you can see that. Oh, here, you can see it better on this side. So that's one vein in my petal so far. And now I'm going to make a couple more to either side of this, cuts the same way. And put these inside the same way again. It's sticky, so it's hard for me to get them in there. It takes a little bit of fussing, but we'll get it. There we go. I'm going to do one on the other side. And whatever you have left that's sticking out, you can just shave off because you're not going to need that. So I'll get rid of that. Now I think you can see the veins there. And now I'm going to make it round again because sometimes it loses its roundness when you're doing that. And I'm going to reduce this. You can see the pattern of the veins in there. We are going to make this long enough, reduce it enough, so that we have at least enough for 5 petals around the center of our flower. And I like to end up with about 15 or 16 inches when I'm done, at least, because that will give me, if I cut it into 5 petals, that will give me a 3-inch cane. So after I cut off the scrap ends of my cane, I want to measure it to see how many inches it is. And we've got 12, 13, 14, 15, I have 16. Cool. So we're going to make a 5-petaled flower, and if we divide 16 by 5, let's say 15 by 5, we'll have an inch left over. We're going to cut 3-inch pieces from this cane. Five. And we'll save that for something else. Okay. Now, you can see the green here on one side of this petal cane, and what I want to do is pinch it just a little bit where that green is to kind of make just a very, not a real distinct teardrop shape, but just teardrop a little bit, so it looks a little bit more like a petal. And I want to do that to all 5 pieces. And now, this jelly whirl and striped cane that we made before is going to be the center of our flower. So I want the same length piece of that for the center. And I'm going to start forming the petals around the center, keeping that green stripe that's the base of our petal touching the center of the flower. And just gently press it until it adheres. And just gently squeeze it all the way around so you know everything is sticking together. And there's our flower. If we had started with smaller petal canes and a smaller center, and this is another example of another flower cane where the petal cane was a little bit smaller and the center was a little bit smaller, so I wound up with a little bit smaller. Here's another example. Now, this cane is still warm, and if I sliced it the way it is, I mean, we can do that, and I'll show you what happens. It's not too bad, actually, even though it's still warm. but if you let it rest overnight or even longer, it will be much easier to slice without distortion. See, I was slicing that without looking, so one side ended up really thin. But if you let them rest, they will slice up much neater and they won't squish from being too soft. But that's our flower. Here's another example. This one has more petals. Okay, one of the ways you can use your flower cane is by just cutting off slices. You can bake them just like this and then drill a hole on one end. I can even pierce it before baking to show you. Put a jump ring in there and you have an element for an earring or incorporate it into other beads in a necklace, whatever you'd like to do. You can also cut off very thin slices and use them on a background to create pictures. Other types of canes, and arrange them on a background to make a picture or a pretty design or whatever you want. You can lay a template shape over this and cut it out after you've put all of your design elements on it and make pendants.
Visit our Learning Center at cooltools.us for more cool jewelry making videos. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and be sure to sign up for our email list to be the first to hear about new videos, new products, and other cool stuff from Cool Tools.